They walked through immigration with fake papers, bold lies, and a name that didn't exist. Torenza was the phantom passport nation that nearly fooled the world's strictest border control systems. But behind the deception was something darker, a global fraud ring, compromised officials, and lives destroyed. This is the Torenza Passport Fraud, the crime that shocked immigration officials. The arrival of the phantom passport. On a crisp Tuesday morning in early 2024, immigration officers at a major U.S. airport had no idea they were about to be confronted with one of the most audacious document deceptions they'd ever seen. It began innocuously. A man in his 30s, neatly dressed, stepped forward at the immigration booth. He handed over his passport, printed with precision, weighty in the hand, with security features that passed cursory inspection. The passport was stamped Republic of Torenza. The man claimed Torenzan nationality, residence in a city called Verin, and a visa obtained through diplomatic channels. The officer, trained to detect forgery, studied it. No warning alarms sounded. Even the visa sticker looked legitimate. Within 20 minutes, he was processed and allowed entry. Only later would investigators learn how bold that move had been. Torenza, a fake nation with real impact. Torenza did not exist. No country by that name appears in atlases or international records. No embassy, no recognized government, no diplomatic recognition. Yet, somehow, a fraudulent passport bearing that phantom state's name was slipping through. The scheme leveraged evolving document technologies: microprinting, UV ink, holograms, raised embossing. Most custom border checks spot crude fakes. But this was high-grade, elegant, ultra-refined. The passport fabric, the security threads, the watermarks, all matched what one would expect from a high-security travel document. The forgery ring had studied dozens of legitimate passports from multiple nations, lifted security templates, reverse-engineered features, and implanted enough correct-looking anomalies to fool even experienced eyes. Immigration officials across multiple countries soon realized that the same passport number appeared in several entries and exits across continents. Sometimes in Asia, sometimes Africa, sometimes Europe, sometimes the Americas, with incongruous timelines. It became clear, this was not a harmless prank. It was a global identity laundering operation. The first whispers. It was an alert by a passport control officer in a European airport that triggered alarm bells. The officer noticed that the passport's holder claimed Torenzan birth in a city unknown to any atlas, yet also claimed residence in a neighboring country. The handwriting style on the signature line was slightly off, and the holographic seal flickered faintly when viewed at angle. He flagged it for secondary inspection. Within hours, an internal memo went out to Interpol's travel document database units. Passport series TZN 4XXXX appears suspicious. Please monitor. Back in the US, after the first man cleared immigration, so-called second entries began, the same or similar passport showing up again, sometimes in different names but same document number. Investigators grew uneasy. They realized the forgery ring was testing the traffic in small volumes, trying to push plausible passports through under the radar. When multiple border agencies pooled data, a pattern emerged. Some entries claimed Torenzan nationality, others claimed dual or shifted nationality, some presented as asylum seekers, others as high-skilled professionals. But the common thread was always the same passport base, the Torenza series. A global atlas of deception. What made the Torenza fraud ring exceptional was its reach. Within months, reports surfaced from Asia, Europe, and South America of individuals using Torenza passports with uncanny sophistication. One traveler attempted to board a flight from Singapore to London using a Torenzan passport. The visa embossing and stamping mechanism passed machine checks, only failing later when switched to manual review. Another detour happened in Africa. Multiple Torenzan passports surfaced in West Africa's ports of entry, used by people seeking to transit to European or Gulf destinations. Certainly, many were arrested, detained, and deported, but the core ring behind the passports, the architects, the forgers, the facilitators, remained invisible. The mystery of who created Torenza, why, and how wide the network was, became the central question driving investigations. The stakes behind the fraud. Passport fraud is not a trivial crime. It isn't just about crossing borders illegally. It's a portal into money laundering, human trafficking, espionage, terrorism, and identity theft. A suspect with a Torenza passport could open bank accounts, apply for international business licenses, launder money in jurisdictions that don't cross-check well, or vanish entirely. Under U.S. law, making false statements or providing false identity documents is punishable by up to 10 years in prison for certain passport fraud violations. thearchitect.com. In more elaborate schemes involving identity theft or document rings, penalties escalate even further, 25+ years in some cases. That's why when immigration officials realized how sophisticated the Torenza passports were, they understood they were not just chasing paper, they were chasing a transnational criminal beast. The first breakthrough, a tiny flaw. In early 2025, a border agent in a Caribbean nation noticed something odd in one Torenza passport. Under UV light, microprinting in a corner spelled Verosa, one letter off from Torenza. The forgery ring had used a slightly wrong matrix on one side, inadvertently letting the UV audit catch it. That accidental typo was the first crack in the shell. Investigators traced that document to a person detained for unrelated visa overstay. In interviews, the individual claimed to have purchased a diplomatic-level passport from a broker in West Africa. He provided a name, Dr. A. Morans, an alias. While he denied knowledge of the broader ring, authorities were confident they had reached into the network. That small mistake led intelligence agencies in 3 continents to coordinate. Now, the chase had real leads. Inside the forger's workshop, the mistake was microscopic, a single misplaced letter, invisible to the naked eye. But that tiny UV misprint, caught under the sterile light of a Caribbean border checkpoint, would unravel one of the most sophisticated document forgery rings of the modern era. The Torenza passport wasn't the work of amateurs printing IDs in a basement. It was a multi-million-dollar criminal operation, stretching from the backstreets of West Africa to the alley labs of Eastern Europe, and at its center, a mysterious man known only by his code name, the Architect. The Architect, the man who built a nation that didn't exist. Interpol files describe him as a document designer turned ghost. Real name unknown, languages, English, French, Russian. He once worked for a small-scale security printing company that supplied laminates and blank documents to legitimate governments. After a dispute in 2018, he vanished, taking with him proprietary designs, hologram data, and micro-etching templates used in government-issued passports. By 2021, whispers of a new identity network began surfacing on darkweb forums. Posts advertised elite-grade sovereign documents with verifiable NFC chips and ICAO-compliant machine-readable zones. One claimed, "We create your freedom. No country. No problem. We make one for you." The name used by the seller, Torenza. At first, it seemed like satire, but the craftsmanship proved otherwise. When investigators finally got their hands on a real sample, what they found stunned them. The Torenza passport had correctly formatted biometric data pages, RFID chips cloned from legitimate foreign documents, custom-designed watermarks mimicking Eurozone-style microfibers, and even machine-readable lines that passed automated gates in several airports. This wasn't a fake ID, it was a synthetic nationality, the global assembly line of deception. To understand how the Torenza passport came to life, authorities pieced together fragments of testimony, financial trails, and forensic evidence. Here's what they uncovered. The operation ran on 3 continents, structured like a corporate entity. Design and printing, Eastern Europe, high-end printers, skilled engravers, and specialists in offset lithography produced the physical passports. These labs often operated under the front of graphic security firms. Distribution and brokers, West Africa. Middlemen with diplomatic contacts or fake consulates acted as distributors. They offered citizenship for prices ranging from $10,000 to $75,000 depending on the identity package. Passport, driver's license, bank letters, even fake birth certificates. Client networks, Asia and the Americas. The end users, fugitives, human traffickers, financial fraudsters, and some legitimate asylum seekers desperate for escape. Many didn't even know the passports were entirely fabricated nations. They were told Torenza was a new microstate, recognized by the UN. When law enforcement raided one of the printing labs in Moldova, they found passports not just for Torenza, but other fictional countries too: Verona Republic, Calestria, North Avalon. It was a production line for identity itself. The workshop of illusion. Hidden inside a derelict industrial park near Chisinau, Moldova, authorities discovered the first of what they called identity factories. Stacks of blank polycarbonate cards sat beside laser engraving units. Laptops ran 3D design software mimicking the patterns used in legitimate passport laminates. A small fridge hummed in the corner, containing thermochromic inks sensitive to UV exposure, the kind used in high-security printing. One of the arrested technicians, a man named Nikolai Grebens, later told investigators, "We didn't think it was illegal at first. We were told we were making training prototypes for a private security contract. Only when I saw the Republic of Torenza seal did I realize this was no government." But by then, hundreds of passports had already been distributed. Following the money, Interpol's Financial Crime Division traced payments to cryptocurrency wallets spread across 14 countries. Clients paid through encrypted portals, receiving tracking numbers for legal courier shipments, often small DHL parcels marked as diplomatic materials. Each passport came sealed in a velvet folder with an embossed gold emblem of Torenza's fictional flag, a white dove over an ocean wave. The presentation was meticulous. It was a psychological game. When something looks official, most people, even trained officers, hesitate to doubt it. And that hesitation was all the forgers needed. The breaking point. By mid-2025, over 300 Torenza passports had been detected worldwide. Each discovery raised new questions. How many slipped through unnoticed? How many people were living under identities that didn't exist? Then came the turning point. A border operation in the Netherlands detained a man using a Torenza passport who claimed to be a diplomat en route to Geneva. When agents checked his briefcase, they found multiple blank passports, seals, and a USB drive containing the official Torenza government template files, emblems, signatures, diplomatic notes. It was the Holy Grail. Digital fingerprints on the files linked back to a dark web account associated with the architect. The IP traces led to multiple nodes across Eastern Europe, but one connection, one location ping, came from Valletta, Malta. That was where Interpol believed the architect was hiding. The panic inside immigration agencies. As the story broke internally across intelligence agencies, panic rippled through immigration departments. If the Torenza passports were this sophisticated, what else could be slipping through global borders undetected? One official from the UK Border Force admitted privately, "We realized our machines could be reading ghosts as citizens." For the first time, multiple governments agreed to share data in real time through an emergency task force dubbed Operation NullSeal. Its mission: trace, capture, and dismantle every known Torenza-linked production lab within 6 months. But the architect was always one step ahead. The hunt begins. In August 2025, intelligence agencies intercepted an encrypted message in a darknet forum. Torenza is evolving. Phase 2 begins. The world will need new passports soon. To investigators, it was both a taunt and a promise. They knew now they weren't chasing one fraud, they were chasing a man intent on reshaping identity itself. The Torenza passport fraud had moved beyond forgery. It had become an act of digital rebellion against the entire concept of borders. The hunt for the architect will follow the manhunt across continents, the cyber tracking that nearly exposed him, and the shocking revelation of who the architect really was. The hunt for the architect. By the time investigators narrowed their search to Malta, the architect had already disappeared, again. The trail was faint, but it told a story. The man behind the most advanced passport forgery ring on Earth wasn't a myth. He was a former insider, a man who had once helped design the systems he later exploited. His real name, uncovered through a chain of encrypted files, was Adrian Vorenko, a dual-national citizen of Ukraine and France, a 42-year-old data engineer who specialized in biometric identity systems. He had worked for a subcontractor tied to the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, which helped maintain the standards used by machine-readable passports across the world. In other words, he wasn't just forging documents. He understood the entire global infrastructure of trust, and he knew exactly how to break it. A ghost in plain sight. Interpol analysts reconstructed Vorenko's final months before the Torenza operation collapsed. He had rented an apartment in Valletta, Malta, quiet, scenic, overlooking the Mediterranean. Neighbors described him as polite, punctual, and obsessed with his computer screens. He lived alone, rarely went out, and always wore a baseball cap low over his eyes. But when police raided the apartment, he was gone. What they found instead shocked everyone. 2 industrial-grade passport printers, multiple ICAO-compliant RFID encoding devices, a full Torenza, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, letterhead, and a server node directly connected to 3 other identity labs in Thailand, Kenya, and Moldova. Most chilling of all, taped to the wall, was a fake map of Torenza. It showed imaginary cities, ports, and even an airline route labeled Intl. Every fictional city had population statistics, coordinates, and fake consulates drawn in fine pen. Vorenko had built an entire country, not just on paper, but digitally, with its own citizens, infrastructure, and government records stored across multiple servers. It wasn't forgery anymore. It was nation-building, a phantom state in the shadows of cyberspace. The digital fingerprints. By 2026, Operation NullSeal was in full swing. More than 100 agents across 12 countries coordinated 24/7 surveillance, tracking cryptocurrency transactions, shipping routes, and VPN relays. Forensic experts noticed that every time a Torenza passport was scanned at an airport, a small packet of data was transmitted to an IP address disguised as a cloud backup. That data wasn't just random, it contained embedded location codes and user logs. In essence, the Torenza passports were smart devices. They were phoning home. That's how investigators found the last digital trail of Adrian Vorenko. One of the logs led to a coffee shop Wi-Fi in Valletta, the same day he vanished. The trap. Interpol planted a sting operation. An undercover agent posing as a buyer requested a shipment of Torenza Diplomatic Series passports. The payment was routed through cryptocurrency and marked with traceable digital ink. The forger, believed to be one of Vorenko's lieutenants, replied, "Torenza still stands. But the architect doesn't deal direct anymore." But the coordinates embedded in that message led investigators to a small tech repair shop in Tbilisi, Georgia. Inside, officers found another microlab and a live connection to a VPN node leading to Zurich, Switzerland. The hunt had crossed yet another border. The capture. On June 17, 2026, Swiss authorities raided an apartment on the outskirts of Zurich. When the tactical team broke down the door, they found a man calmly sitting at his desk, typing. 3 monitors glowed around him, one showing lines of code, another a digital rendering of the Torenza coat of arms, and the third, an open Interpol news page reporting the ongoing investigation into the Torenza passport fraud. He looked up, smiled faintly, and said, "You took longer than I expected." It was Adrian Vorenko, the architect. He offered no resistance. When agents confiscated his equipment, they discovered a chilling detail. Every passport ever issued under the name of Torenza had been meticulously catalogued. Serial number, buyer, shipping route, even the forged digital identity files for each citizen. Vorenko had kept everything. Every lie, every sale, every life ruined, documented like an artist's portfolio. The trial that shocked the world. The following year, the trial of Adrian Vorenko became an international media spectacle. He was charged with large-scale passport fraud, money laundering, cybercrime, identity theft, and conspiracy to traffic forged diplomatic materials. In total, over 900 fake passports had been sold across 42 countries. The estimated profits exceeded $80 million. Vorenko refused a plea deal. In his only statement to the court, he said, "Borders are fiction. Nations are illusions. I simply built one of my own. Those words became infamous, quoted across documentaries, podcasts, and newspapers around the world. The aftermath. Vorenko was sentenced to 27 years in a maximum security prison under joint jurisdiction between the EU and the US. But the true damage went far beyond him. Thousands of identities had to be re-verified. Airports and border systems were forced to update their authentication technology. Interpol introduced a new protocol requiring real-time cross-border document validation, known as the Torenza standard. In the end, Vorenko didn't just create a fake country, he changed how the real world handled citizenship forever. The nation that never existed. Today, the name Torenza is erased from all international databases. Its emblem, the white dove over a blue ocean, now sits in a museum display case labeled the Phantom Republic. But the ghost of the architect still lingers in cyberspace. From time to time, darkweb forums whisper about a new movement, new designs, and a message that reads, "Every border can be redrawn." Whether it's myth or warning, no one knows. But one thing is certain, the crime that shocked immigration officials forever changed how the world defines identity. Because in an age of digital forgeries and invisible borders, truth itself is the most fragile passport of all.